Lance Stroll and Nicholas Latifi, otherwise known as Dumb and Stupider. Every single race, they do something even more stupid than the stupid thing they did the race before. Previously, on Lance Stroll is a useless cunt, in Bahrain he gets out-qualified by Nico Hülkenberg, who was only standing in for Sebastian Vettel, who had corona. In Saudi Arabia, he had a completely avoidable crash with Alex Albon. In Miami, he had a completely avoidable crash with Kevin Magnussen. In Australia, he fucked it into the wall in FP3 and then in qualifying, had a completely avoidable crash with Nicholas Latifi. He crashes with Tsunoda in Spain, hits the barriers on the formation lap in Monaco, and now in Azerbaijan, within the space of half a lap, he crashed in qualifying not once, but twice, because the first time he crashed, he didn't completely destroy the car. Now, it's one thing to criticise a driver, especially Lance Stroll, but nobody ever offers any real solutions. I have an idea. What about Nicholas Latifi? He's had the same number of stupid crashes and completely avoidable incidents. But this time, he got a 10-second stop-and-go penalty before the race even started because a Williams mechanic was on the grid after the curfew. So it wasn't his fault. But then, he got a 5-second penalty for ignoring blue flags. Imagine getting a 5-second penalty when you're in last place and 50 seconds off the back of the pack. These two fucking idiots are single-handedly destroying the reputation of Canada. Forget about the FIA giving them 5-second penalties. They should be charged with domestic terrorism. Speaking of people who don't belong anywhere near Formula 1, Paul di Resta was in the commentary box this weekend. Because for whatever reason, every time we go to Azerbaijan, we get this twat. Remember last year when Lewis Hamilton had that infamous lock-up? Which, by the way, was the real human error that cost him the World Championship. The most embarrassing thing about that was the noise Paul di Resta made.
As well, Perez tried to cut off Hamilton, who locks up and goes...
Did somebody grab his minge? So what were the main stories coming out of this race? Lewis Hamilton is now disabled and will spend the rest of his life in a wheelchair after breaking every single bone in his body. We heard him say on the radio, "My back is killing me," and he went on to say it was the most painful race he'd ever experienced. We saw him struggling to get out of the car, and some reports even suggested he was going to miss the next race in Canada. So why is Lewis Hamilton now in a vegetative state? Well, it was because his car was bouncing so violently, it gave him something called lumbago. The symptoms include pain in the lower back area, numbness, getting outperformed by your teammate every single race, a fan base of delusional morons who will make excuses for you no matter how much your career declines, a never-ending identity crisis, crippling hypocrisy, and unbearable levels of self-obsession. Check. And once again, we heard Toto Wolff apologising to him on the radio. He said, "We all know this is a bit of a shitbox to drive at the moment," but what he meant was, Niki Lauda burnt half his face off, came back 2 months later and only lost the championship by 1 point, and you've got the fucking nerve to complain about a sore back, you pleb. His words. I'm taking the piss. Obviously, it's very easy for me to sit in the comfort of my own garage and slag off a professional athlete. But some people did think he was being a bit over-dramatic, with the whole struggling to get out of the car and walking around holding his back. He's just trying to get a bit of workers' comp. We've all done it. Some cunt dropped a cabinet on my foot once, and I turned up the next day wearing a neck brace, because you've got to play the system. Either way, Lewis Hamilton managed to drag his Mercedes death trap to 4th place, while George Russell ended up on the podium. Now, that all sounds very impressive, but the only reason Mercedes got a decent result is because of Ferrari. They have been trying their best to throw this championship away as fast as possible. At the last race in Monaco, they fucked up the strategy which cost Charles Leclerc the win. But they've made a lot of progress since then, and they turned up to Azerbaijan with a brand new strategy, which was, before they make a strategic decision, both of the cars retire. Clever. Charles Leclerc's engine blew up and Carlos Sainz had something called a BBW failure. I didn't know what that meant, so I googled BBW failure. So with both Ferraris now out of the race, it was the two Red Bulls at the front, and once again they told Sergio Perez, no fighting. Spineless bastards! Let them race. Christian Horner walks around the paddock as if he's got 3 pairs of bollocks, but he's too afraid to let his drivers race each other. What are they so concerned about?
Danny and Sunday have crashed! They've gone into each other!
Well, there is that. I think the real problem is Max Verstappen's dad, Jos Verstappen. After Monaco, he took a break from slamming his wife's head into the fireplace to criticise Red Bull. He said the team should have prioritised his son and not Sergio Perez, and they exerted little influence to help Max to the front. Christian Horner dismissed these comments and then told Perez not to fight Verstappen. Further down the grid, there was more team orders when McLaren told Lando Norris to hold position behind Daniel Ricciardo. Spineless bastards! The only order a team should be allowed to give their driver is fucking hurry up, cunt. So after all the drivers were told not to fight each other and both Ferraris fucked off, the race settled down a bit. On lap 39, Yuki Tsunoda's DRS snapped in half and the team repaired it with gaffer tape. Paul di Resta and his infinite wisdom said, if I was the FIA, I wouldn't be too happy about that. Well, you're not the FIA, Paul. You're not even a commentator. So Red Bull are now 80 points ahead in the championship. George Russell once again outperforms Lewis Hamilton, and the nation of Canada is planning to invade Ukraine, hoping to get these two arseholes thrown out of Formula 1 along with Nikita Mazepin. So that is the end of the race recap. Now, I'm going to have a rant about Formula 1 management, or FOM for short. If you don't know who they are, they were the organisation responsible for Pearl Harbor, 9/11, the Holocaust, the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr., Avengers Endgame, and the disappearance of Madeleine McCann. But worse than all of those things combined, they took down my Monaco race reaction. You can start a war in the Middle East. Fine. You can snatch a kid while the parents nip out for a bit of tapas. Who cares? You can shatter the fabric of American democracy, but you take content away from the 17,000 people who are mentally ill enough to subscribe to this channel. That is where I draw the line. The video got taken down for a copyright claim, which is bollocks, because what I'm doing in these dumb videos is fair use. Fair use is any copying of copyrighted material done with a limited and transformative purpose, such as to comment upon, criticise or parody copyrighted work. Comment upon, criticise or parody. So if I can understand this legal shite, why can't these pigs? Which brings me on to my main point. I think Formula 1 management is trying to silence me for 2 reasons. The first is because I'm a strong, independent black woman. The second is because I have some opinions that don't fit with Formula 1's squeaky clean public image. You know, the public image that saw Max Mosley get his bollocks ripped off in a sex dungeon by a woman dressed up as a Nazi. Plaster that all over the front page, but God forbid I call Lance Stroll a cunt for being a cunt. Hold on a minute. Apparently Max Mosley did not have a Nazi-themed sex orgy. Well, I don't want to spread misinformation, so let's get the facts straight. Max Mosley, the man who took on the News of the World and won. It all started in 2008 when the News of the World published a front page story accompanied by a secretly filmed video with the headline, F1 boss has sick Nazi orgy with 5 hookers. Fucking legend. The information about the extramarital sex party was true. However, the claim that there was a Nazi theme pushed it too far, with the incorrect allegation coming in the blah blah blah. Right, so he did have an orgy, but there were no swastikas involved. Still cool? Hold on a minute, there's more. The News of the World's defence is threefold, that there were Nazi elements at play, that Mosley's high-profile job, blah blah blah, responsibility to behave. In one scene, Mosley bled after being spanked, and this act of violence was against the law. Mosley scoffed at this suggestion, saying the pain was pleasurable. For pity's bloody sake! Right, so all he did was hire a bunch of slappers to knock him about a bit. Nothing serious. Hold on a minute. Mosley said the scene was in German because he could speak it, and one of the women involved, known in court as Woman B, was German. Right, so he was getting knocked about by some women that were screaming at him in German. I mean, it's getting close. There was no evidence that the role plays had any Nazi overtones. If the newspaper was hoping to get pictures of the claimant doing a Nazi salute, or saying Sieg Heil, or dressing in the uniform of a concentration camp commandant, which we know they were to be completely disappointed. Well, I am disappointed, because that sounds fantastic. But what about the video? Where's the bloody video? Let's find the video. Right, I can't find the video, but this is a frame from the video where it looks like he's dressed up as a prisoner. They speak in German as they abuse their victims who are dressed as camp prisoners. So they weren't wearing the armbands, but he was dressed up as a prisoner and the women were screaming at him in German. I mean, if it quacks like a duck and it walks like a duck, it's probably a woman dressed up as a Nazi smacking you in the cock. What was my point? Madeleine McCann. Abducted by FOM before they block my Monaco race reaction video. The video is currently under appeal, which means I had to fill out a fucking form, which took all day because I'm an idiot. But if I win, the video gets put back, and if I lose, I get a copyright strike. And if that happens, I swear to God, I will... Well, I won't do anything. But I'll be very disappointed. So what about Nicholas... Fucking spider, look at that. Wow. Fuck off.